Hey everybody, welcome back to Taking Trades. The question on everybody's mind today is, will UGAZ fill the gap above and get a quick push to the upside? That's what we're talking about today, so stay tuned. So I know with all the craziness in natural gas and UGAZ and DGAZ, we're all kind of feeling that pain. We don't know what's going on. UGAZ keeps dropping. The weather's not cold enough. There's all kinds of craziness going on in the futures markets. So I just want to find some little shred of positivity within the natural gas markets, within UGAZ, within /NG. So I think I found it for you today. I've got something for you. I've got a gap. It's above the price action. If it fills, that could show great upside. It could jumpstart UGAZ. I don't know. It's the only positive thing I can find in natural gas right now. So let's jump into the charts and let's just take a peek. Okay, we've got /NG up on the chart here. We've got the daily time frame going. And I want to just talk about this gap that I'm seeing. And like we've talked about in the past, if you do get a gap, a lot of times if they start to fill that gap, it can act as a vacuum and suck price action to the other side of the gap. Price action doesn't like to stay in between gaps. It likes to get to shore really quickly. And if I have a drawing here, let's look at sort of this level right here where we had a gap down. So you can see here we had that sell-off, and then we just gapped way down. And we ended up finishing this day green, but nonetheless, we have this gap established. So right now, we're hanging right at it. It looked like we were going to start to cover it, and then we sold off again. I'm not sure what's responsible for that. My guess is a lot of people being unsure about the weather could have caused it to pull back down. But right now, we've got it set up where we're at the very bottom of the gap. And if we get into the gap and close today, I have a feeling that we could then close or open tomorrow and start to push to the upside to close this gap. Now here's the thing with it. If we do get an open and a push to the upside tomorrow, I would take profit at the top of the gap because I wouldn't trust that it's going to continue going. We could get rejected back down to the bottom of the gap. So I would take profit at the top, and then if we got pulled back, I might nibble and add a few more shares down here. But to sort of play through this, and then once we get above it and close above the gap, I'm going to wait for the pullback to the gap to test it as support and then go higher. And let me just draw an example because sometimes it's easier to see this way. Let's say we break above the gap, this is price action, then I'd wait for it to pull back and test the gap, and then I'd wait for it to then bounce and go higher. So I'd wait for this retest, this bounce, to confirm that we're not just going to slip back below. And this could set us up for a move back to the upside to start trending into colder weather and trending into a long side position on UGAZ. So this is /NG. We used it because we were able to get some support levels in our video the other day. But I was just looking for something positive here, and this gap seems to be about the only positive thing right now for natural gas. We're going to look at weather in a minute, and weather's looking, a little sort of back and forth and not really cold, and there's some conflict between the European model and the GFS. So we'll look at that. We'll talk about the weather, but right now, the positive thing for us to look at is this gap to fill above. And if I flip over to UGAZ real quick, let's take a look and see over here what this gap looks like. And I'm actually going to go ahead and clear those drawings out for a second. So we've got the top of the gap sort of in this area right in here, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that in, and let's see if we can come up with a logical place for this. So if we go right there, there's the top of the gap, and then we gapped down. So I guess technically on UGAZ, we're starting to fill that gap. I know this looks really strange, but because price action's kind of weird on it, but we did gap down and then had a green day up to the gap. Then we got our close above in it. Then we kind of gapped up and started to sell off today. So we are inside the gap for UGAZ. So maybe we can get the fill to the other side. Look to maybe take some profits around this 930 to 950 area.
And then if we pull back down, back into that 8.25 area, that might be a nibble zone, an area to maybe look to add to your position for another move higher. Now the same thing goes here. If we're looking at a break, if we do get a break above this level, then I'd be waiting for the pullback into the level with then a return to highs. So waiting for that pullback to retest this top of the gap to demonstrate that it is in fact underneath support. And then if we look at our friend DGAZ over here, we're getting a green day today. We got the big gap up. So technically now for DGAZ, we could be looking at, here's the bottom of that gap, here's the top of that gap. So now that we're filling into that gap, it's possible DGAZ could push to the bottom of the gap before it makes a decision whether it's going to bounce or break through. And again, when we talk about this, the reason I mentioned DGAZ and UGAZ in terms of these gaps is some people trade these in isolation. They don't use /NG. So I like to comment on it just because there are those traders out there. But a majority of traders will use /NG to make their trades. So they're going to be focusing more on the gap that's showing here on /NG or on the January chart, the /NGF20 that we were looking at. But for right now, I would concentrate on let's get into the gap and close possibly today. That'd be great if we showed a green day and closed in the gap. Then look for more progress tomorrow to work back to the upside. And I would say a profit-taking zone would be around 2.35 and then wait for that break above at the retest. I would say more nibble zones would be probably in the 2.25 area, 2.26. But right now, the reason I don't want to nibble here is just because it looks like we're getting rejected off this level to go lower. I want to see an actual close in this gap. If we get a close in the gap, then my personal opinion for me and my trading would be that would be an opportunity for me to nibble a few shares moving forward. So with that, that's your price action. Now let's jump over. Let's check out the weather real quick and just see what's happening right now.
Hey, real quick, I just want to point out that about 50% of you right now watching this video are not subscribed to the channel. So take a quick second, jump down, hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying the video, give me that thumbs up. It really helps the channel, helps us continue to grow, and I appreciate the support, so thank you so much. Let's get back to the video.
Here we are, natgasweather.com, our resource for checking out the weather. I just want to take a second just to go through it a little bit. You can see over here on the right, we've got this week's nat gas demand. It's showing high. It's saying that a strong cold shot's going to sweep and impact the Midwest and the Northeast into Thursday with chilly lows of the -20s to the +20s for showing of strong demand. So this is good. This is weather coming in. It's a little cooler, but the problem is it's very close to us. It's not out on the horizon, so it's not going to have the same impact as something that's maybe 2 weeks out or 15 days out. So if we come over here, this little blurb I always like to mention to you guys to take a peek at, just saying that back to huge weather model differences that are being shown between the GFS and the European models. And it's saying that the GFS added 20 heating degree days last night alone, but then the European model emphatically disagreed and lost 4 to 5 heating degree days. So we're having some weirdness between the two models that's causing some upset and not a unified decision on cold, so it's hard for price action to then move up or down in a strong direction. It's a little bit of confusion for everything. So it went ahead and held a rather bearish pattern overall. So I want to go ahead and jump over to the weather maps. Let's look at our 15-day lows, and we'll just take a quick peek and see what they're looking like. I like to just stroll through day 1 through day 15 and just looking at the weather maps just to see if we're getting some cold creeping in. We've got a few negatives up north, northern Minnesota, northern North Dakota. And as I kind of scroll through, we've got a little chilly blip there, North Dakota. Wow. That's getting really big into day 4, and this is kind of that cold shot they were talking about that we just read, and then it drifts away. So as we get further out, we've got some cold sweeping in the west, but nothing extreme. Day 8, not sure what's going on there. Still some of the same. It's really cold in northern Minnesota, but that's kind of par for the course for them. But as I continue to scroll through, it's just not looking we're actually getting this is a pretty wide swept cold pattern. So I'll be interested. So day 15 right here, compared to day 1, you can see that we are getting some cooling that is kind of coming in. So I'll be curious to see how that impacts things today and moving into tomorrow, just because we're getting a lot of 20s and 30s through here. But then as we scroll down to day 15, you can see that those 20s and 30s are becoming more along the lines of 20s, some teens, some single digits, still getting some periphery 30s. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly that's going to mean for the weather. But right now it does look like it is a little bit cooler off, but it's not a massive cold shock coming in that gets everybody excited and then sends natural gas higher because of the probability of really cold temperatures. So we'll keep a close eye on it. We'll keep watching storms. But for right now, that is your weather.
Hey, if you're looking for a great broker for trading options, click the link below in the description to Tastyworks. Check them out. They have a great platform. It's the same guys that built ThinkOrSwim. They have a new platform and it's amazing. Use the link below, fund the account with $2,000, and support taking trades. Have a great one.